Have you ever woken up in the morning and noticed that your vision seems a little blurry, as if there were a light haze over your eyes? Or maybe when you're driving at night, you notice those strange halos around the lights of cars? Many people start to notice these things after the age of 50 or 60, and most assume that it's simply normal with age, something inevitable, something that happens to everyone and that there's not much you can do about. But what almost no one clearly explains is what is actually happening inside your eyes. To understand this, imagine your eye as a very sophisticated camera. At the center of that camera is a small lens called the crystalline lens. This lens is responsible for focusing light properly so that you can see everything clearly. Now comes the part that surprises almost everyone. The proteins that form the lens of your eye were created before you were even born. Yes, before you came into the world. Your body produced those proteins when you were still in your mother's womb, and after that, it never produced new ones. That means those same proteins need to last your entire lifetime. Think about that for a moment. Decades and decades of use. Bright light, solar radiation, pollution, oxidative stress, all of this affecting the very same structures that have been there since the beginning of your life. Over the years, those proteins begin to suffer small amounts of damage. At first, the damage is almost invisible, nothing you would notice in your daily life. But slowly, they begin to change shape. They start folding differently. Some begin sticking together, others start forming small clusters. When that happens, the lens that was once completely transparent begins to lose some of its clarity. The light entering the eye no longer travels perfectly straight. Instead, it begins to scatter. And that is exactly what creates that sensation of blurred vision. That is what makes lights appear larger at night. That is what creates those halos around car headlights. And very often, when someone finally goes to the doctor and hears words like age-related eye changes or early cataract, the process has already been developing for 20 or even 30 years. During all that time, the damage was building silently, without pain, without warning, without the person noticing. But there is another extremely important detail that is almost never explained in simple terms. Inside the lens, there is a very special substance called glutathione. You can think of it as a kind of protective shield. When we are young, our eyes contain very large amounts of glutathione. It helps protect the proteins of the lens against damage caused by free radicals and oxidation. As long as glutathione is present at high levels, the proteins remain separated, organized, and transparent. Light passes straight through them, and vision stays clear. The problem is that something begins to change around the age of 50. Scientific research has discovered that a kind of physical barrier begins to form inside the lens. This barrier appears near the core of the eye's lens, and when this happens, glutathione can no longer easily reach the center of the lens. Imagine that the eye's protection system begins to get blocked exactly where it is needed the most. It's as if the shield were removed from the most vulnerable point. Without that protection, the proteins begin to suffer more oxidative damage. They deform, they clump together, and they start scattering light. This is the beginning of the process that leads to loss of visual sharpness. And here comes a very important question. If the problem involves antioxidant protection and oxidative damage, could diet play a role in this process? The answer might surprise many people. Some researchers began observing that certain nutrients found in common foods may support the body's natural protective systems. Among those foods, one group in particular has drawn attention: seeds. Yes, small seeds that many people ignore at the grocery store. But that may contain nutrients important for eye health. A simple example is sesame seeds. These tiny seeds contain minerals such as zinc and copper. They also contain vitamin E, an antioxidant known to help protect cells against oxidative damage. Zinc, for example, plays an important role in retinal health. It helps transport vitamin A within the body, a nutrient essential for vision. But there is an interesting detail that almost no one mentions. Sesame seeds also contain a compound called phytic acid. This compound has the ability to bind to minerals in the digestive system. When that happens, part of the zinc and other minerals may pass through the body without being absorbed. In other words, the person eats the food, but the body does not fully use all of it. Fortunately, there is a very simple way to reduce this effect. Lightly toasting the seeds. When sesame seeds are heated for a few minutes in a pan, part of the phytic acid is reduced. This helps release the minerals more effectively. Another type of seed that has attracted attention is pumpkin seeds. They are rich in two compounds called lutein and zeaxanthin. These compounds belong to a group known as carotenoids. They are known to accumulate in the macula, a small region of the retina responsible for central vision. This is the part of the eye we use to read, recognize faces, and see fine details. Interestingly, the macula has a slightly yellow color precisely because of these compounds. The body seems to concentrate them there intentionally. Research over many years has observed that diets rich in lutein and zeaxanthin are associated with better eye health. Pumpkin seeds also contain significant amounts of zinc, but just like sesame seeds, they also contain phytic acid. That is why some people prefer to soak them overnight in water with a little lemon before consuming them. This process helps reduce part of that compound. Another interesting group is hemp seeds. These seeds contain a natural balance between two types of fats, omega-6 and omega-3. The human body needs both of these fats, but when the proportion between them becomes very unbalanced, low-grade inflammatory processes may develop. Many modern diets contain far more omega-6 than omega-3. Hemp seeds have a more balanced ratio. This may help support natural processes in the body related to inflammation, and the retina, which is part of the nervous system, can be sensitive to chronic inflammation. Another very well-known seed is chia. Chia seeds are one of the richest plant sources of ALA, a type of omega-3. ALA can be converted by the body into DHA, a fatty acid important for the structure of the retina. However, there is an interesting detail. The outer shell of chia seeds is quite resistant. When the seeds are eaten whole, some may pass through the digestive system almost intact. That is why some people prefer to grind them before eating. This helps release their nutrients more effectively. Flaxseed works in a similar way. It is also rich in plant-based omega-3. But, like chia, it is usually better utilized when it is ground shortly before consumption. When crushed, its natural fats become more accessible for digestion. Among all these seeds, sunflower seeds also stand out. They are one of the richest dietary sources of vitamin E. Vitamin E is an antioxidant that acts in cell membranes. In the case of the eye's lens, it may help protect cells against oxidative damage. But because vitamin E is fat-soluble, its absorption improves when it is consumed together with a healthy source of fat. For example, foods such as avocado. Another interesting nutrient in this context is vitamin C. It has a special function in the body. After vitamin E neutralizes a free radical, it may become oxidized, meaning temporarily inactive. Vitamin C can help regenerate vitamin E, allowing it to continue working. That is why many people like to combine foods rich in vitamin E with foods that contain vitamin C. For example, seeds with a few drops of lemon. It is important to remember that these foods are not medicines. They do not replace medical treatments or eye examinations. But a balanced diet can help provide important nutrients for the normal functioning of the body. Another interesting point involves the timing of consumption. some specialists suggest that fat-soluble nutrients may be better absorbed when consumed together with meals that contain some natural fat. There is also a curious detail related to coffee and tea. These beverages contain substances called tannins. Tannins can bind to certain minerals during digestion. That is why some people prefer to consume mineral-rich foods and drink coffee a little later. But above all, the main message is simple. Eye health does not depend on just one single factor. It is the result of many different elements: genetics, age, exposure to sunlight, lifestyle habits, and also diet. For decades, our eyes work without rest, reading, driving, looking at screens, recognizing faces, observing the world. Even small lifestyle changes can make a difference over the years. And sometimes those changes begin with something very simple. Perhaps a small handful of seeds, perhaps a new eating habit, perhaps simply paying more attention to how we take care of our bodies. Because the truth is that our eyes work for us every day of our lives, and taking care of them may be simpler than many people imagine.